Sweeney here, and welcome to another TriggerCast interview. Now, today we have on another traffic king. We're really getting a lot of big traffic guys. We have Brooke from IMScalable. Now, he has a legendary story about how he turned $60 into six figures, but we're not focused on that because he is the traffic guy that millionaires recommend. He runs a lot of big numbers of traffic. I'm not sure if he will divulge into any numbers or how many impressions he's run or what he's running in ad spend this month, but he is definitely up there. And Justin, thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. The $60 to six figures is pretty cool. I mean, it's a good story. It's pretty old now. I mean, that was back in 2007. Today we're running six figures per month in traffic, and we've delivered millions of clicks, sold tens of millions worth of dollars of products, and tens of millions of we've sold millions of dollars worth of product and tens of millions of clicks. So get my facts right.
Yeah, well, it's hard to. I imagine it's a lot of numbers that add up there. And
Yeah.
I know too. I've read about you turning away clients, which obviously means business is pretty good then.
Yeah, it's it's nice to get to a point where you can do that. In the beginning, you usually have to take whatever kind of client you can get, but after you start getting some success under your belt, you're able to start picking and choosing. That's actually something I wish I would have done earlier on, because as you start picking and choosing, things just get better because now you have clients that are much easier to get success for than
So
when you just take anybody.
if you had to do it again, because obviously there's kind of the got to pay the rent check reality, and then there's having employees. But after kind of your main, you've kind of covered the foundation, so to speak. At what point would you have started that transition into I'm only going to work with the people I want to work with, or I'm going to figure out my ideal client and only go after them?
If something were to happen and I'd have to start all over again, I'd probably take the first client just to take the financial pressure off of, and then immediately I would go into a mode where I'm really picking and choosing which clients to work with, because in the beginning there was a lot of clients that it's hard. The agency never gets to blame the client. The client always gets to blame the agency when something goes wrong. But there were a lot of cases where the traffic I was driving was fine, but the funnels that I was driving them to just were not capable of converting cold traffic. And so I learned how to identify which funnels were just not even built or ready to convert traffic. And so that's really what I pick and choose. I look at their sales process to make sure when I send traffic there, are they actually going to be able to convert it? Because if they can, then they're going to be very happy with me. But if they can't, then they're going to think that I'm sending them crap traffic.
Which kind of sounds like you had to go through the bad to recognize what the good was, in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. Took some black eyes, but we got through it, and everybody's happy now. We have a very good success rate now that we really filter out our clients.
And now I'm curious what you look for now. Obviously, you know a lot about conversions because you've run so many ads, probably seen so many different offers and funnels. But do you kind of have a general criteria, like you were talking about, that you look for in a funnel and that you might recommend, or is it just kind of more for your own personal to run this high level of traffic?
Yeah, I mean the biggest warning sign is have you done paid traffic before? And if they haven't ever done paid traffic before, then they're going to be in for a big reality shock. It's not that I don't want to take that ride with them. I can help them through that journey of making sure that they're doing the testing and tweaking to get it right. But that's usually a very expensive, very long journey, sometimes 6 months to a year, to get your funnel to a place where you can convert paid traffic reliably. And most of the time, clients, they say, oh yeah, I'm game, help me through it. But 2 months into spending it with no ROI, and they're like, oh no, I got to go away. But it doesn't matter if they do it with me or they do it themselves or some other guy. They're still going to have to go through that trial and error period of getting their funnel ready. So that's the first thing I look for. If they haven't done paid traffic at all, it's a no-go. if they have done paid traffic, then the more successful they are with paid traffic, the more reliable I know that I can do well for them.
It kind of sounds too like in a way with consulting the same way. You don't want to consult the guy who's has no revenue, has nothing in sales, has nothing in profits, because you can only generate so much of a return for them. Whereas if you find a good offer that's already doing pretty well and converting on a smaller level, maybe they're spending $10 to $100 a day, that's where you can come in and go, hey, we can put $1,000 a day or 10K a month into this.
Right, yeah. I mean, as an agency owner, it's my job to drive traffic. And then as the person who owns the sales funnel, it's their job to convert that traffic. And if they're doing their job and I'm doing my job, the relationship's going to go fine. But if I'm supposed to do both parts of it, might as well be my own business.
Exactly. Is there any other things that you do look for in the funnel, or that you've seen kind of recurringly now, seeing so many different funnels that seems to work time and time again? For example, is it like a lead magnet, tripwire, offer, upsell, downsell? Is there kind of a typical pattern that you've seen work?
Yeah, something that has a good, unique angle. I mean, it's got to be something that excites me. If I'm creating ads, like there are so many products out there that's like lose 20 pounds in 30 days. And there's really just kind of like different variations of that same headline, and it's just kind of like another Me Too thing. But if it's something like the cookie diet, how to lose 20 pounds in 30 days eating nothing but cookies, that's exciting. I can create a great ad around that. I can get some CTR around that. So, and I'm not saying that that's something anybody should do, is just eat cookies, but that's the kind of thing that I look for. I look for that they have something unique about their offer, the story behind their product, a unique story, something that if I'm excited about it, the people who see the ad are going to get excited about it, and that does half my job right there.
So I listened to I believe it was the IM party. I listened to a little bit of that interview, or like the pre-interview.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that kind of basically like I wanted to clarify or see your opinion on is, so you want to have a product that you can shout in the mall that anyone can be interested in, but then you also don't want a Me Too offer, and then you also don't want to niche it down. So like what does that process kind of look like, of because obviously there's only so many unique and creative things in this world, and one of the first ways you can do that is by niching it down. So where does that kind of look like? Or did you kind of niche it down and then figure out how to scale it back up? Or
all right, well, I mean, it starts, that's like the $64 million question, and it could possibly take us the whole podcast to answer it, but the short version is it is hard. It's not easy. And there's so many people that ask me, if you're so great at traffic and conversions, why don't you just do this for yourself? Well, I do. Right now I'm building an agency, and it's not, I mean, saying it and doing it are completely two different things. You can have all the knowledge, you can have all the ideas, but there is still a time in the saddle of doing the testing and the tweaking and getting things just right. So it's not that easy to just do it. But in theory, the first part that you have to do is you need to have a product that is good enough. Now forget about the creative headlines and angles and niching. You need to have something that if you shouted in a mall and people would be interested in, losing weight, becoming wealthy, getting laid, I mean, these are just classic health, wealth, love type of offers that people would be excited about. Now you've got to differentiate yourself so that you're not just another Me Too product. So you say, okay, well, I'm going to teach people how to lose weight. How am I going to do it differently? There's the burrito diet. There's the cookie diet. I mean, these are real things. So you can go out there and buy them. There's the sugar-free diet. There's the fat-free diet. There's all these different ways of coming to the same result of losing weight. So that's how you differentiate yourself a little bit. And and there's different levels. Maybe you have a product that's just for like really, really heavy people to lose a lot of weight, because something that somebody needs to do to lose 20 pounds just to kind of tone up is a lot different than what somebody has to do if they need to lose 120, 150 pounds. So there's a lot of different angles within that one major angle that allows you to be different. And then the next thing is, niching it down. I'm just not a niche kind of guy. I mean, there's two different schools. You can have a niche product and you can do very well, and you can go very deep into one niche. Or, for me, I like high volume. I want to drive a lot of traffic, a lot of sales, do big numbers. And it really kind of starts from, that story of how I turned $60 into six figures. It was on a small product. It was on a very small niche product. And what I quickly learned is I tapped out. I tapped that market out very fast. And my mentor at the time told me, he was like, now imagine if you'd have just done all that, everything you just did in an ocean instead of just playing in a pond. And it was, you do this literally. You do the exact same movements, really just your headline kind of changes, and instead of playing in a pond, you're playing in the ocean. So I hope that answers the question.
No, it definitely makes a lot of sense, and I know it was a loaded question, but I was still curious to kind of hear your angle and position on it. And the reality is, if you're going to go through the pain of the paid traffic process, and once you break through on the other side, it sucks when that doesn't have a long runway to it to figure out all that information, and then after 6 months you've bought all the traffic you can possibly buy, and you've made all the money you can on that offer.
Yeah.
It's time to start over again.
Yeah, I was tapping out at I think it was like 15 sales a day, and there was a little bit. Looking back, there were some things I could have done. I could have added, better upsells. I could have done maybe some offline things. There are some things I could have done to maximize it a little bit, but at the end of the day, it was just a small market, and it was going to be very hard. And you're right, just like what you said. If you're going to go through the pain, you might as well have the biggest reward you can get from it.
How does competition at all factor into this? Because obviously your first rodeo, you don't want to go with the biggest, baddest bronco that you can find, or bull rather. So how does that kind of factor in? Because part of niching it down is that the smaller pond is smaller fish, and it makes it a bit easier rather than when you go to the ocean and you got to deal with the 20-foot waves and sharks and all that. If that makes sense.
It's almost like I struggle with this question, because so there's the same thing happens where the guys who are super wealthy right now, you see it on Facebook all the time, they're talking down to the guys who are coming up, saying, oh, you shouldn't be working 16-hour days, you need to have better systems and a team and resources, so you only have to work 4 hours a week like me. It's like, you didn't get there doing that. Like, you can't criticize the guy who is grinding it out right now when every single millionaire, billionaire I know went through that same thing. And so now, I think about my own advice with traffic. I'm talking about doing the ocean, but I started an ocean. I started in a little tiny pond. So maybe that's where people have to start. Maybe you have to, cut your teeth in something a little bit smaller where you're not competing against the biggest guys in the world. But I don't know, man. If I had to go through it all again, I just would hate to go through that process of I did everything and then I had to stop and start all over. I had to do it all over again. Same exact things, but now I had to do it all over again. It's a tough one.
It's kind of a case of outgrowing your pond versus just going as big as you can possibly go from the start.
Absolutely. I love competition. Competition means there's money. And something that I always tell people is, so many times people see competition and they feel like they have to beat that competition. You don't have to beat in a really big market. You're not trying to get 100% of the market. That would be amazing. You could be Google. But really what you're trying to do is you're just trying to carve out 1%. If you're working in $1 trillion industry or $1 billion industry, 10% of that is awesome, So 1% of a trillion is very good. 10% of a billion is amazing, So competition to me is a signal that there's a lot of money here. And all I need to do is try and figure out how can I carve out my little piece of the pie. That's all I need to do.
It's a very, very good point. You're just trying to get a little bit of market penetration. You don't have to completely dominate it. Now, let's kind of shift gears here a little bit, and I want to go into some of the other traffic sources. Obviously, you being a big traffic guy, there's been a lot going on, in the marketplace. Google AdWords is expensive. Facebook ads have changed up a little bit and seem to be making a change. So I'm curious to learn more about these other platforms and platforms that people might not know about.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you've discussed some on some of your media outlets, but I'd be interested in hearing, what you're kind of using right now or what you'd recommend right now, and then we can maybe go to those other sites as well.
So, I've kind of gotten pigeonholed as a Facebook guy, but I've only become a Facebook guy because that's what's hot right now. That's what everybody really wants. And if I'm going to be a competitive agency, I've got to be able to be great at Facebook. How am I going to get clients if I'm, the seventh best Facebook guy? It just doesn't work like that, unfortunately. So Facebook is actually one of my most aggravating traffic methods. I would say, when people ask me what is my favorite traffic method, for me, it's solo ads or dedicated emails, email advertising. It's called so many different things, but me as a copywriter, I feel like that's the ultimate form of advertising. Like I write a letter to a person and it gets delivered, and do I get a sale or not? Like that is like the ultimate game for me. I love it, and it's such a huge burst of traffic too. Because if you write an email out to 1 million people, you can get 2,000 leads tomorrow, and I've done it. So that's like the most fun. But the problem with email advertising is it's that quick hit, but then the email's gone, and so the traffic trickles away. So I like to add on retargeting with it. That kind of makes things a little bit smoother. You don't just, it's not just like peaks and valleys in your traffic. That's never good for a company. And then I would say, and we can dive into some questions here in a minute, but the other one that I'm really liking right now is Twitter and YouTube. I would say that Twitter ads is probably one of my favorite things to do right now. Other than Twitter, YouTube, email, retargeting. God, I love them all, man. I don't know where to start.
So Twitter ads. Let's dive into that. Solo ads we'll put on the back end a little bit more.
Okay.
And that kind of makes sense with the solo ads too. I mean, that's the big reason why everyone's loving email addresses, and I remember from day one I got into this industry, it's get the email address, get the email address, get the email address, and the reason why is because it's the only place where competition is quote-unquote fair. Google has switched things up. Obviously, you have to deal with deliverability issues and things like that, but you don't have to worry about organic reach or Google Slap or any of these other things, because if you have their email address, you can always get an open.
Yeah,
so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, especially for some of the markets where there's so much not regulation by government, but regulation by the ad platforms, dating, fat loss, business opportunity, email advertising is like the wild, wild west. I mean, you can still do very well there without all the rules. So enough about that. We'll talk about Twitter ads. And what I really love about Twitter ads is you get all of the benefit of Facebook ads, but just not on Facebook. So it's like having two Facebook ads. If you think Facebook ads is great, all that targeting ability, if you think the ease of use of Facebook ads is great, you're going to love Twitter ads because it's virtually the same thing. It's so similar that Facebook has something called custom audiences, and Twitter has something called tailored audiences. And they do exactly the same thing. I mean, that's how similar they are. I mean, they are literally at war with each other right now, trying to come up with the same things and who's going to be the best in social advertising. The other thing that I like is I can target all my competitors. So I can target their followers with my ads. I can target a keyword. Everybody loves Google AdWords because it's an intent-based traffic source where somebody's typing in a keyword because they want that thing. So inherently, they have some desire for your product before they've even come to your sales page. Well, you can get that same effect on Twitter. You can target someone who is tweeting about a certain keyword. You can target hashtags. There's so many things you can do on Twitter. I think that's why I love it. It's a bit more expensive. On Facebook you might be paying 20 cents to 80 cents a click. On Facebook you're paying that. On Twitter you might be paying 80 cents to $2 a click. But I believe it's a little bit higher quality traffic as well.
And have the lead cards, how has that affected things? Because I know they have kind of the one-click opt-in. Has that helped out a bunch? I mean, it sounds like with the cost of clicks, not so much.
Yeah,
but
I'm glad you brought that up. That you have to use cards if you're going to be using Twitter ads. Because if you're not using it, then really, I mean, your tweet looks like any other tweet, and it's got this little tiny space. But if you add a card to it, you can now grab the person's email address. It's a little bit more technical. I usually don't talk about that. It's great. It works really, really well. It's just very hard for me to describe how to do it unless I'm showing someone because there's a little bit of tech involved. The way it naturally works is they just give you a list of email addresses. And then you have to go import that into your system, which not every system likes that idea. They have to double opt them in. But if you're a little techie, you can change it so that it's porting that stuff over dynamically on the fly. And see, we're already into a scientific discussion. And but
I do know that. I was just gonna say with most of the platforms, it's pretty easy. I know we have Entreport and it doesn't do that, so that was kind of a shitty point for us. And there's also a company called Rock that I'm pretty sure was still free and some sort of email follow-up that you can use and not even have to connect it to your own CRM. But naturally, you probably want to or should.
Right. So the other one that I do talk about a lot and still gets really, really good results is using a website card. And essentially, that just adds an image, a headline, and a call to action button to your tweet. Every time I've used a website card, it's boosted my click-through rate. They call it your engagement rate, I think they call it on there, instead of a click-through rate. And it boosts it like 300%, 500% every time. It just works so much better because you have a lot more real estate on there. Instead of having a little tweet, now you've got a tweet with an image, with a call to action, a headline. And so that's the one that I like to use. And you can actually build tailored audiences, aka custom audiences, off of the people who have clicked your Twitter ad. So you can start building a retargeting audience to start retargeting these people who have visited your website. So yeah, cards on Twitter, that really makes it. If you're not using if you tried Twitter ads before and you weren't using cards, try using cards. It's probably going to make the difference between the ROI and not ROI.
Definitely makes sense. I had a question there, but I drew a blank for a second. So on organic reach, have you seen any kind of, because I know you do native ads and kind of content marketing and such. Have you ever seen any where where you throw in $10, stop it, and then it kind of continues to grow organically, or anything of that nature, or no, with Twitter?
That can happen. You really got to have a great article. You've got to make sure you've got the social sharing features built into it. I don't want to get into a conversation about viral coefficients. And I mean, if anybody wants to Google this stuff, just Google the word viral coefficient, and you can learn how to, scientifically create a viral loop into your piece of content. But essentially, yes, if you create an article that is so good that every person who reads it, or at least 1 out of every 5 people who reads it shares it, then yeah, paying $10 to get it that initial burst of exposure, it can just keep going. But it's a little bit of a lottery to do that.
Gotcha. Wasn't
It's a lot
wasn't
better than
sure
waiting
with.
for Google to bless you, though.
No, yeah. Well, I wasn't sure with Twitter's features, and Twitter's reach is always kind of questionable at best. So I wasn't sure if there was, maybe with the ads, you never know. So unless you have any other tips on Twitter, targeting maybe with competitors or anything else in
Oh,
that
biggest
nature?
yeah, biggest thing with Twitter is they don't call it Twitter ads. We as marketers call it Twitter ads, but they call it promoted tweets. And that's a little bit of a hint as to how they think people should be using it. They do not want to, and the Twitter community does not want to see, you know, download my latest ebook, get 25% off, and it goes to a sales letter. That is not what the Twitter community wants to see. That is not what the head honchos at Twitter ads want to see either. What they want to see is that you're tweeting about a blog post or an event that's going on or something. It's promoting a tweet. You have a tweet that you want more people to see, and so you're paying some money to promote that tweet to the audience that you want to see. So it's much better to use Twitter as a kind of like as a native ad platform than it is to use it as a sales platform. And I think that a lot of the networks are just switching over to that model where they just want people promoting content, not sales offers.
It kind of makes sense. I mean, at some point though, I wonder how your funnel is going to affect your advertising in the sense that native ads is basically doing more content on the front end, but then the back end still leads into these other sales tactics. I mean, that is after they have raised their hand and said, yes, I'm interested to hear more about this. But I wonder at what point, Twitter's going to be like, oh, well, the third page that you show someone in your sales process is a video sales letter. Or will it never get that deep? I don't know.
Google did at one point. I remember at one point they were opting into our squeeze pages to see what we were doing on our sales pages. So that's a legitimate concern. We'll see.
But hey, for now, just get on the native side of things. You'll be all right. So YouTube ads. I'm interested to hear what you've done or seen with YouTube ads, or if you just like the platform overall.
I'm not in love with the platform as much as where like Twitter ads, I'm really in love with the platform, the targeting options, all that jazz. YouTube ads, I'm really just more so in love with the ability to advertise videos to people who want to watch videos. And it's a really good platform if your sales process is mostly video based, like a webinar. The best way to promote a webinar with paid traffic is to offer a short video tip. And then at the end of that video, it says, hey, if you like this tip, this was actually only tip number 1 out of 7 that we're covering on our webinar on Wednesday night. That is a much better way to promote a webinar than just taking a cold visitor to a webinar page, which is a very big commitment. They have to take time out of their life, they have to remember it, they have to register, they have to attend, and then after they've done all of that, then they still have to buy. So if you flip it a little bit and you give them a piece of a video that they like with a cool tip, and then you pitch the webinar, now they're like, oh man, I want to be on this. Now they're like printing out the registration page and they're taping it to their bathroom mirror so they don't forget. It's just a different buy-in at that point. So also, to be able to advertise more complex topics. Sometimes it's not that easy to discuss the benefits and what your product solves in just a tweet or a Facebook ad. Being able to have a 30-second video is a really great way to advertise higher-end products like ad agencies or consulting, or when you have that higher dollar service, having a video ad to really explain what you do is great. So yeah, I like the format. Yeah, I like the format on this one a little bit better than the ad platform. Got a couple tips unless you got some questions.
Oh no, I was going to kind of go into in-stream versus this or that, or what have you seen for video advertising best practices. Obviously, video scares a lot of people, even though it shouldn't.
Yeah. So in stream and in what was it, in search or in display, they kind of merged a couple of them. But in stream, it's best to target people who watch video, who have interest in that topic. The in display or in search, whatever it's called now, that one's best if you're doing like keyword targeting. So somebody's typing in teeth whitening on YouTube. I'm not sure why they would, but let's just pick a keyword. They type that into YouTube, and then they see a little ad or a video of yours on the side about teeth whitening. That's great. It's great to use that there. Where in stream, it hasn't been as effective for me to show a video to somebody who is searching those things as it was to just show my video to people who watch videos around the subject that my topic is about. And that's kind of been the big, I don't get a lot of volume from people typing in keywords in YouTube. If you think about the YouTube behavior, usually it starts with them adding in one keyword, and then they start clicking on related videos, and people aren't typing in a lot of keywords into YouTube. They're much more watching related videos than they are typing in keywords. So advertising on interest.
Organic discovery.
Yeah. So it's much better there's just a lot more volume in targeting people who watch videos like yours, aka related videos.
And have you seen anything with the video, with the ads themselves? Is there a certain, maybe it's 15 seconds, maybe it's a minute, or there's a certain way to do the call to action? Have you seen anything within that?
Yeah, there was a rumor going around a while ago that if your video was under 30 seconds, it would be free because they only charge if somebody watches the video for 30 seconds. That's not true. It's that would be amazing, though. That would be like the greatest traffic loophole there ever was. But Google still charges you. If it's under 30 seconds, they charge you for the view. If it's over 30 seconds, they charge you for the click, I think. With that said, length, I like shorter videos, but my buddy Tommy Powers, who does a lot more video advertising than I do, he's putting like 30-minute long videos up there and advertising those videos and getting really good results with it. So I haven't tried that yet. I've kind of used it as like a commercial kind of platform where I just advertise kind of a shortish video. I use it to advertise a couple of good tips, and then people want to join my newsletter. For me, I'm all about leads. I need leads for my business. So a lot of the things that I do for my own business are just to get a lead. And so on there, I have a short video that's giving them like one cool, interesting tip, and then telling them, by the way, I've got a lot more of these tips if you opt into my newsletter.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I think I know one of the tactics kind of around that, I don't know if it still works, is the like bumper basically. So you'll have a 25-second video, and then you'll have a 10-second kind of static call to action. Mm-hmm. So you're trying to get the click in that under 30 seconds, so then you're like only charged or you're not charged or something like that. I think that's part of what the loophole was around too.
Yeah.
They finish the video in 20 seconds, and then they click over in 21 seconds, and you didn't hit the full 30 or whatever.
Yeah. The other thing is, everybody has their. I mean, I watch how my daughter and my son watch YouTube, and their fingers are waiting over that little skip this ad button, and they're just waiting for the second. And they try to they know where it's going to appear before it's even appeared. So you've really got to make sure the first 5 seconds of your video is going to stop that person from clicking that button, the skip this ad button, because chances are their mouse pointer is already hovering over it, their finger's already hovering over it, and if the first 5 seconds of your video isn't good, then you're going to lose it.
Gotcha. With webinars, I'm curious, have you, not kind of in relationship to YouTube, but have you seen any success or anything with doing paid webinars? Have you ever tried that or no?
What is it, paid webinars?
Paid webinars, like a lower cost for the webinar.
Yeah, that's. I don't really do a whole lot of webinars myself, but when I have done them, I do like to do them paid. Even charging $10, $20 to get on the webinar and calling it a workshop and really delivering a valuable lesson on there. I mean, it changes the person. It changes your attendance rate. It changes the type of person who joins it.
And it kind of it reminds me too of with what you do client-wise. I know a lot of marketing at some point is also figuring out who you don't want and how to, kind of filter them out and the methods to filter them out. And in a positive way, that's what it seems like Adverds does really successfully. These are people that like to watch video content. What is a webinar? Mainly video content. Or what's a video sales letter? Mainly video content. Whereas an email blast, these are people maybe that like to read more than they like to watch.
Absolutely.
So you can kind of use that to self-segment, and I'm sure your whatever it is going to do much better.
Yeah.
Much success.
Absolutely, and even to the type of lead magnet that I offer. On Facebook and Twitter, I usually offer a lead magnet that's like a tool, something, a checklist, a spreadsheet, something that they could use. It's just a simple, easy tool. But on YouTube, I offer them a free 1-hour video course because this person likes videos. That's how they like to consume content. So that's what I offer them, and it works much better as a lead gen. I'm actually getting like 73% conversions off of YouTube traffic. It's YouTube traffic, and when I look at all the traffic, it is the highest converting traffic for me. It's not the most volume, it's not the cheapest, but by far, like by double, triple, it is the highest converting traffic.
Doesn't that suck and awesome at the same time?
Yeah.
And what would you say the lead quality is about normal, slightly better, slightly below average?
I haven't checked it off of YouTube. I was actually just so happy of how high it was converting, I didn't check, but I should definitely go back and see, were all these jokers actually buying something from YouTube. For us, we just look at all of our leads, and we look at what our average cost per lead is from all of our streams, and then we look at our average earnings per lead from all the streams, and we make sure that number is okay. But I should definitely go back and look at that.
More so not to poke holes, but just I'm curious if it is bringing in about an average lead or if they're higher quality leads, because obviously that's always a factor too. If your conversion rate is low but you're getting great quality leads, hey, it's all good.
And we have those numbers. We have those for Facebook and Twitter. I just have never done it for YouTube. So thanks for bringing it up.
Gotcha. Excited to hear how that works. Now, native ads. Have you done? So this term gets thrown out a lot. So I'll do my best to clarify, unless you want to jump in here and clarify.
Sure, I'll clarify. It's basically native ads is just creating an ad that looks like the native type of content where that visitor is. So on Twitter, a native ad looks like a regular tweet. It doesn't look like a salesy message or look like anything different. On Facebook, same thing. Native ads on websites, blogs and newspapers and magazine sites, it looks like a piece of content. It looks like another article on that site. And that's why they call it native. It looks native to the website, and it works tremendously well. It's the big hot thing.
Now, I think the distinction is there's social native, your Facebook, your Twitters. There's display native, which is more banner advertising that you're kind of purposely trying to make it look native, and then there's blog native, which is the standard related articles related to content. So with blog native, have you done any of the Tabulas or Outbrain or those kind of related articles, related content networks?
No, I haven't done Taboola or Outbrain yet. I've pretty much only done social native. It's, for me as a business owner, as an agency owner, I don't, and maybe it's just bad belief, but I don't see how I'm going to be able to target my target client with Taboola and Outbrain. Maybe I'm wrong in thinking that way, but I know that on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, that I can target exactly the type of customer that I'm looking for, And so that's why I've gravitated to those.
If there's some Taboola guy out there, maybe he'll be giving you a phone call and
I hope so.
pitching you on his platform. I mean, it seems like it wouldn't be a bad move for them. I don't know what their sales process is like, but hey, here's a guy that spends a lot on media per month, and here's the one person that directs, 6 figures worth of media spend. Maybe we should give him a call, see if we can't convince him to use our platform and show him around a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do have some friends of mine who are using them. Outbrain is really good, but the problem with Outbrain is they have a lot of rules. They're kind of like the Google AdWords of the native advertising platform, but that's what makes them good as well, as they keep it very clean. So you're not going to be able to just take any advertorial or a sales pitch that's disguised to look like a blog post and run it on Outbrain. It needs to be actual like editorial content. It needs to be a legitimate blog post. They are a content distribution platform. They don't like to consider themselves a native advertising platform, where Taboola, Content Ad, and these other networks, they're essentially a banner advertising network. Just their banners look different. But really, their banners look like we've been designing them for a long time now.
And are you familiar with content upgrades, quote unquote?
Yes, absolutely. That is the number one way to generate leads off of native advertising, is to make sure that you have a little opt-in offer inside of your content that offers them something related. We've got a blog post that we advertise called "Are You Making These Mistakes with Facebook?" If you add a little content upgrade to that and offer them, a Facebook ad swipe file, just enter your email, you're very likely to get a lead from there. So we've been able to get, without the content upgrades, we've been able to get anywhere from 5% to 10% of the traffic to, subscribe via the little, the opt-in box at the top, or to click on one of our offers in the sidebar. But using a content upgrade, we've been able to get 20, 25%, which is what we're used to seeing on like squeeze pages and stuff.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up, because I know the opt-in. I mean, we've used it ourselves and had great success, and I know the opt-in rate's so high that, hey, this native ad now can convert as well as a squeeze page, and now you don't have to deal with the any of the platforms hating you. So it's a good benefit. Now I wrote a few of these other traffic sources that you mentioned before. I don't know if there's any other that are really popular that you're using right now, but you have MediaTraffic.com, ExoClick, and Advertising.com.
Yeah, so these are kind of I don't know if the term is right, but these are like traditional online media buying places. MediaTraffic.com is essentially pop-up ads, CPV ads, or PPV, depending on what guru you listen to. Pop-up ads. And then ExoClick is a lot of adult traffic, but it's not just adult traffic. It's banner ads. And then Advertising.com, probably one of the largest advertising networks out there that most people are not even aware of, and you'd think they would be with a domain name like Advertising.com. But that is basically AOL's traffic network. You've got Google AdWords, you've got Bing, and then Advertising.com is AOL's traffic network. So if you want to advertise on any of the AOL platform, any of the AOL-owned properties like TechCrunch, like Huffington Post, and many of these other really, really huge blogs out there, then you're most likely going to need to go through Advertising.com or through something like Site Scout, where they have just access to lots and lots of different types of traffic. But yeah, banner ads, that's what you do on those networks essentially.
And what do you think the fear is there, or just why does it seem like no one does banner ads or display ads?
The problem, and also it's the problem and also the great strength as well, is not a lot of people are clicking banner ads anymore. I remember I was telling my uncle from New York. He was down in Cocoa Beach, and I went to go visit him, and we're having breakfast. And I told him, hey, Uncle, I'm actually going and doing this speaking gig tomorrow, and it's pretty cool for me. He don't know really what I do, but I'm telling him, it's kind of cool. And he's like, oh yeah, what are you talking about? I'm like, oh, I'm teaching people how to build their business using banner ads. And he's like, oh, that sucks, man. Nobody clicks those. And I was like, you're right. 99.9% of the people don't click those, but that 0.1% is enough for someone to make millions of dollars on. And that's the truth about banner ads. It's tough because not a lot of people click them, and most people are very scared of banner ads because it can be really, really hard. That is the coldest traffic out there, other than like spam. If you can make banner ads work, though, it's huge. It is the biggest traffic source there is. It's one of the oldest as well. I call it the cockroach of the internet. It's never going to go away. It's the oldest thing. It works. It's unjustly called the cockroach of the internet.
And do you think it's the? My only guess would be so that part is difficult, of course. But do you think it's just kind of the ad creative side of things that scares people off, because then they have to get banners created and all these others, whereas on Twitter or Facebook, you can just throw up any old dumb image in a headline and just push it to your squeeze page. Like, what do you think the barrier to entry is?
Well, yeah, you've got to be able to either create your own banners, and most people think that the banners that they should be running are like these elaborate designs. That doesn't work. The banners that we create, my wife literally goes into Word or PowerPoint and just takes a screenshot of the slide and creates that as a banner. It really should be very simple. Sometimes, literally, actually, the story of how I turned $60 into six figures was off of a banner ad. I spent a pathetic $2 a day on a Google AdWords campaign, and I was using site targeting, which is now the Google Display Network. And I had one banner on one website, and the banner was an all-white image, and it looked like a giant text link on there that said, "Watch Joomla tutorials here." And so when they would click on that, they would go to my offer about, you can buy my videos for Joomla tutorials, which is like WordPress website software. And so that's really what a good banner looks like. It looks like a piece of the website. And in fact, it works so well that there's now guidelines out there that says you have to put a little border around the banner. You have to put a little, you put your domain name on there, some sort of branding. You got to allow the consumer to be able to identify that that is actually an advertisement, not part of the website.
So it all started with the banners.
It all started with the banners. Yeah, I just didn't choose a big enough market.
Poor you.
Yeah.
So now I'd say kind of the last, kind of to circle back, unless you have any other recommendations, it seems to be solo ads. Is there any other traffic sources I'm not thinking of or mentioning, or that are worth it, I guess?
I know that I've kind of beaten up on like the media, banner ads and CPV pop-up ads, and I love that stuff though. That's, if you really want to go big in traffic, that's the kind of playground where the big media buyers are playing. That's where, the big traffic is at. Facebook and Twitter are actually pretty small. They don't want people to know how small they are in relation to other advertising networks. For example, Facebook they advertise that they have 1.3 billion users. Well, if you're targeting just the US alone, that goes down to 300 million. And now if you're targeting into a segment, you're looking at 1.3 million, 1 to 3 million people. And these other advertising networks, they're advertising 3-4 billion impressions per day. So they're serving more impressions per day than the total user base of Facebook. That's how big these other networks are. There's a lot of traffic available in Facebook and Twitter, but the big stuff is out in these other networks. And solo ads, getting back to that, It's really called email advertising. Really the only people who call it solo ads is in a small market, the internet marketing guys. And most of the lists that you would go out to are decent. You can get 300 clicks, 500 clicks. You can buy big packages of 1,000 clicks. But, the bigger world of email advertising, you can have your email go out to an email list of 5 million people and, get 35,000 clicks, in 24 hours. So we've been able to generate 2,000 leads in 24 hours off of that, where some of the smaller solo ads are offering 1,000 clicks. We're getting 2,000 leads. So just know that the terminology is a little bit different, and I hate to sound a little cocky or whatever about that, but it is the truth. If you start throwing around these words, Mike Hill is the guy who taught me this, because I was throwing around these words. He's like, whoa, dude, if you start talking like that, they're going to know that you're a rookie, and they're going to charge you tooth and nail. And so, he taught me some of the right terminology, and it's so true. When you get into the bigger media buys, it's like the show business. This is big league advertising, and they're doing whatever they can to sell you the biggest package they can. There's not a whole lot of regulation. It's not the soft waters of Facebook and Google where they're watching out for you and they're making all the rules. This is the wild, wild west, and if you don't know what you're doing, you could lose. You could lose $1,000 in an hour, quick, no problem, without even batting an eye. So, with that said, back to solo ads. Is there any question about solo ads that I maybe could end on?
As far as maybe best practices for writing them, or I know you have a few different networks here that you mentioned. I can kind of rattle those off, or I can just put them in the resources.
Yeah, it would be great if you put them in the resources. But if you're in the internet marketing space, you're selling anything related to network marketing or internet marketing, make money online, that space. I think it's soloadsdirectory.com is probably the best place to go to. They've got reviews on all the different solo ad sellers. Read those reviews. This is this market, I'm telling you. When you get outside of Facebook and Google, you're kind of really on your own, and you can really burn your money very quickly. So make sure you read the reviews. Outside of that, there are some really good networks to use. Archamax.com is great. Dedicatedemails.com is great. Let's see who else. Newsmax.com. These are the bigger stuff. If you want to get access to really big email newsletters, that's where you would go. And also where you'd be able to go if you want to buy email advertising for health markets or personal development, markets outside of internet marketing and make money online.
Gotcha. And do you have any best practices as far as writing the email its actual self, or what kind of where you send the email to? Is it generally lead gen or lead magnet or direct sales?
Biggest tip I could give people, and comes to me from Dagan Smith, who kind of taught me this game. He told me that when you buy a solo ad, it's a flat price. Usually, they normally don't charge per click. It's usually like $2,500 or $1,000, and you're going to go out to this audience. So it's a flat price, which means in order to get your click price down, you've got to do everything you can to try and get the highest CTR. Basically, if you don't do a good job of increasing your CTR, then you could be paying $1,000 and get no clicks at all. So that's the biggest piece of advice. If you want really cheap clicks, then you need to learn how to write an email that's going to generate a lot of clicks. And the way that you do that is it needs to be very high curiosity. It is not your job to build a relationship with this list. You build a relationship with them once they're on your list. It is their job, the person who owns the newsletter, to build the relationship with the list so that when your advertisement goes out there, you have success with your advertisement. Your job as the advertiser is to create a good advertisement that gets you an ROI, that is also not. Obviously, it shouldn't be anything hateful or unvaluable. That should go without saying. But your job as the advertiser is to create a good ad so that you can ROI off of that ad. So a good email advertisement has a link right up near the top. I normally will have 1 to 2 sentences that gets things started. Normally the first sentence starts off with some sort of a yes statement. If I'm selling a weight loss offer, the first sentence would be something like, would you want to lose 20 pounds in the next 10 days? Duh, yes. That's what you want that first sentence to be like. You want it to be a very obvious yes statement, get them in agreement with you, get them start reading, and then it would be like, well, then you're going to love this video. Link right there, right up at the top. And then I'll explain a little bit more, but without letting the cat out of the bag. I wouldn't allude to that this is a how to lose weight by cutting out all the sugar in your life. I would be talking about that this is a way of losing weight. It's this new great way of losing weight. People are getting lots of results. I'll build up
removing one simple thing.
Right. Yeah. So you build up the curiosity by not really alluding to what the technique is, but telling them the result that they're going to get from this technique, and that gets them to click over to your page. The other big thing is don't use subject lines like, hey, your house is on fire, or I'm trying to send you money. If you use these subject lines, yes, you will get a really high open rate. But the type of people that are opening the email are not the type of people you want clicking. So you need to use a subject line that is very relevant to your offer. You still create a good one that gets a good open rate, but make sure it's relevant to your offer. That way, at least the person who's reading the email is the type of person you would want to click and go over to your website. So that's the 2 biggest tips I would really tell people is do what you can to get that click and make sure that it's the right type of person opening the email.
Gotcha, Justin. Well, thanks a lot for coming on. I would definitely recommend, I don't know if you push people to your YouTube page or to your blog or where's the best way for people to check out?
Just go to Google.
Stay in touch.
Go to Google, type in Justin Brooke, or come to my website. Everything's over on my website as well. At IMScalable.com.
Thanks a lot for coming on, Justin.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.